各位无国界国际的朋友，大家好啊。Hi, this is Jill, and I've known her for a while, and she has been in Asia for more than for more than 3 years. And today I've invited her to talk about the concept of service, and because as a foreigner, and also I've been back in Taiwan for 5 years, and perhaps there is cultural shock, or the problem with adapting yourself, right? So let's hear what you have to say.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me here. I guess to start off, when I first moved to Taiwan, there were a lot of differences in service. First, everything is readily available. So as you may know, in America and Canada, where I'm from, when you need something, you have to drive to get it. You can't just walk outside and it's there for you. So that was a bit of a shock, but it was a really good shock. Everything was right there, and things are open all the time. Taiwan is a place where, everything is always open. There's always going to be something available for you. If it's 12 o'clock at night and you need anything, you can just go to the 7-Eleven or go anywhere. So that was definitely something right away that I noticed I was different. The problem that I had when I first arrived was more with the amount of money that I was spending, because when you recognize a store like a Subway or a McDonald's, you tend to go towards that instead of to a smaller store, because you can't speak Chinese. But those stores are the stores that really offer you the best way to get over culture shock and to really experience the culture. So it's been, really different in that sort of way. How is it for you in LA? I mean, it must have been quite a big change moving from Taiwan and having to drive everywhere.
Well, because her major in college was journalism, so now I feel a little uncomfortable being interviewed. In LA, everything was actually easy with a car. If you don't have a car, it's a car city, so without a car, you basically you can't go anywhere. If you live by the Ralph's, for example, a huge convenience store chain, it's easier. But then the living expenses in LA was pretty high, and now I think people say are higher because of the economic global crisis. It's easier here, but you tend to sort of in Taiwan, you tend to sort of spend your money like unknowingly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I
You feel that way? What about the attitudes of people who service you?
Sorry. When I first walked into a clothing store, I think that was the most interesting thing. In the Western world, when you walk into any store, people just leave you alone. They ask you, is there something I can get for you? You say, no, I'm just looking, and they just leave you alone. Taiwanese people will follow you around the store, and aggressive. And for you guys, that's normal, but for us, it's very it kind of makes us step back a little bit. And actually, I've talked to a lot of foreigners who are scared to go into some stores, because the minute they go in, there's like 2 or 3 people, what do you want? What do you want? And they feel kind of like trapped, and they feel like they can't just look, nicely. So it takes a while to get used to that. After a while, you kind of ignore it. But another thing is that, Western women specifically, a lot of Western women here aren't really, really small like Taiwanese women. So we have a lot of problems to buy clothing or different things that, we would be used to in our own countries. The clothes that we want to buy are also small that we can't buy them. Or you might go into a shop and have somebody say, oh, no, we don't have your size here, which is really, for us, it's really shocking. I know here that the way that they approach the subject of thin or large is very different, much more open. But in Western culture, it's very offensive to say that to somebody, to go into a store and have them say that.
And also, it's the sort of the idea of a personal space, right? Right, totally. Because when somebody is following you around or is getting into your space, and this is like a comfortable space. So if somebody goes like this, then it's basically offending you.
Yes.
Right, right. So sort of an idea of being an individual and being respected is very important in Western democracies. And also intruding questions like what you want. Let me, recommend this to you. That's also offensive, actually, because you as an individual know what you want, right?
That's right.
What about, say, ticketing booths or, say, like banks or anything that involves, say, paperwork?
My first experience at the bank was really interesting because in Western countries we owe a lot of money for our student loans. So many people at the end of each month need to go into the bank and send money home to their accounts in the United States or Canada or wherever they're from to pay for this. When you go into the bank, there's like a number. You have to get a number. And this is something that you don't really do in Western countries, the places where I've been, unless it's a really big bank. Usually the banks are smaller and the service is very personal. The banks near where you live, they know you by name, they know, who you are. So when you go in and there's a security guard, that first off is a little bit, scary. You're like, why is there a security guard in the bank? That's kind of strange. And then you get your number and you kind of sit down. The numbers are in Chinese, but it is helpful that there's usually like a board with the numbers. So then you go up to the booth, but the problem is when I arrived in Taiwan, it was good, but I've been talking to people saying, 5 years before I'd arrived, nobody spoke English. But not a lot of people in the bank speak English, only the people who do international stock markets and stuff like that. And they're all at a different part of the bank. So it's really hard to set up a bank account and to send money if you can't speak Chinese at first. It's something you get used to, but it's something that, at first is it takes you back a little bit, but it's something you have to do. Same with yourself when you moved to LA. I'm sure that, it was something you might have had to do as well.
Well, when I was in LA, and I also go back sometimes, I think banks they also respect your privacy. And they also provide very good service. They always they are very polite. How can I help you today? And what you mentioned, like a security guard or giving you a number and you should wait. That's sort of a kind of authoritarian. Would you say that's authoritarian? Yeah, sort of like parents, sort of. Especially when you owe money to like a bank, right? And still, they're still making interests out of your loan. So they're actually providing a service to you, and banks actually rely on savings to survive. So I'm hoping that people know, service is the key, and also quality. What about quality?
Sure.
Of all kinds of service.
Of all kinds of service. There, in Taiwan and versus the Western world, there's something that we always talk about, which is conformist society versus like an individualistic society, right?
That's a very, very good subject.
Yeah.
We wait until the next.
Sure.
Interview.
Yeah. Of course.
We only have
a few seconds.
Okay. All right. Yeah, a few seconds.
We're good? Okay, well...
So let's go.
Go ahead.